Here's your wrestling news for September 9th, 2022. And we're kicking off with this week's AEW Dynamite, where CM Punk was stripped of the AEW World Championship due to his actions following last weekend's All Out. A new champion is set to be crowned at the Grand Slam show on September 21st, but we may not have to wait so long to find out who the new champ will be. According to Dave Meltzer on the latest Wrestling Observer Radio, the plan for AEW's next pay-per-view, Full Gear, is for Jon Moxley to face MJF in the main event, presumably for the AEW World Championship. If so, it appears that Moxley will be the one to win the title at the Grand Slam Dynamite, which would make him a three-time AEW World Champion, as well as a one-time interim champion. As for MJF, he earned a title shot with his win in the Casino Ladder match at All Out, and the Full Gear title match will likely be him cashing in his chip. Moxley is set to compete in the semifinals of the ongoing tournament next, and will face the winner of the Sammy Guevara vs. Darby Allin bout scheduled for tonight's Rampage. Meltzer also added that AEW is in the position that they need a storyline that delivers, and said that the show is riding on the backs of the likes of MJF and Moxley. MJF has a guaranteed world title match, and with the two having a face-off during this week's Dynamite, expect MJF and Moxley to be the big feud going forward. It may just be a matter of time before Moxley becomes a three-time AEW World Champion, but that's only happened because of AEW's change of plans. Tony Khan certainly didn't want to strip CM Punk of the AEW World title, and now we're learning more of the plans that never came to be. On his show, Meltzer explained how there were different plans for Jon Moxley at first, saying, "Moxley had an entire storyline that had nothing to do with the championship or anything like that. He was going to be off. He even mentioned on TV that he was going on a vacation. The storyline had to be thrown out because him and Jericho, who was also not booked on the show this week, they were both called and told the show that we had and the stars that we had 4 main stars who are not on the show this week and we need you back. There was a team meeting before the show, and unity and everything like that. While Punk may prove to be more trouble than he's worth, Moxley has been very reliable for Tony Khan, with fans calling him the heart and soul of AEW. Rather than a vacation, Moxley is likely to be the next AEW World Champion, and we can't help but wonder what the original plans for Moxley would have been. Over the past few days, a lot has been said about Ace Steel, who was involved in the all-out fight that has seen several wrestlers suspended. It's not been confirmed what Steel or CM Punk's status is with AEW, but fans are having some fun at the Ace's expense. On Wikipedia, someone has changed Steel's page to add to accomplishments, noting that it is in AEW that he bit Kenny Omega and threw a chair at Nick Jackson. Steel is expected by many to be fired from AEW for his actions, but if he goes, at least he'll have a unique legacy in the company. CM Punk's second reign as champion ended abruptly due to his actions after All Out, but his comments and the fight weren't the only reason he was stripped of the gold. We previously reported that Punk was reported to have suffered an injury during his All Out main event against Moxley, and now we have more information. On Wrestling Observer Radio, it's reported that Punk suffered what's being called a torn muscle injury in his arm, which will either be his biceps, triceps, or pectoral. He may have already undergone surgery, but either way, he's undergoing surgery. It was not confirmed that it's a torn triceps, but it was confirmed it's a torn muscle on the arm. That's usually an 8-month recovery period, so he was going to get stripped of the title anyway. Whatever muscle is torn, a 6 to 8 month recovery window means it'll be between March and May 2023 that Punk could wrestle again, if he's not fired before then, or already been fired by Tony Khan. Meltzer added that the muscle injury made the choice to vacate the title an easy one, as even if he had not done what he did following All Out, he'd likely have lost the gold. With Punk's actions last weekend, many wouldn't be surprised if Tony Khan didn't want to work with him again, and with yet another injury, the seemingly injury-prone and unprofessional Punk's reputation in AEW is continuing to spiral downward. A lot of people have weighed in about Punk's actions and whether he should be fired, suspended, or if he was in the right. One name who worked with Punk briefly in WWE is Kevin Nash, who had his own unique take on the situation. In a tweet, former WCW announcer Mark Madden took issue with Punk's comments about Colt Cabana sharing a bank account with his mother, saying he shared one to help his own mother when she grew elderly. In response, Nash saw the irony that Punk took issue with Colt sharing finances with one of his parents, despite being sat next to Tony Khan, who Nash said is basically in the same situation. Tony is, of course, the son of Shahid Khan, the multi-billionaire who no doubt will have helped his son get AEW off the ground in the promotion's early days. Punk had nothing but bad things to say about Colt Cabana, his former best friend, but perhaps he'll take a step to think the next time he ridicules someone over their bank account. With the Elite suspended and Punk and Ace Steel's futures in jeopardy, the AEW roster has changed significantly in recent days, but one name who's sticking around is Jake Hager. Hager has been with AEW since 2019 and worked as part of the Inner Circle and is now part of the Jericho Appreciation Society and has now signed a brand new contract with AEW. It was during Inside the Ropes that Chris Jericho confirmed Hager's new deal, calling it an extension of his existing contract. Outside of AEW, Hager has proven himself to be a dominant fighter in Bellator, which is something he wouldn't be able to do if he were with WWE. While he's yet to hold gold in AEW, Hager is routinely featured on the shows, doing much better than his last few years with WWE, and fans of the former World Heavyweight Champion will get to see him stick around for a long time to come. Triple H has certainly risen in power following the Vince McMahon retirement, as he's now head of creative and talent relations, but he's not alone in moving up the corporate ladder. Shawn Michaels worked closely with Triple H when they were running NXT, and now the Heartbreak Kid has received a promotion. CBS Sports has confirmed that Shawn has been promoted as Senior Vice President of Talent Development Creative after being listed as VP of Talent Development Creative during an August press release. Michaels' work behind the scenes began in 2016 and as an NXT trainer before moving on to becoming a writer and producer with Triple H. When the game's cardiac event caused him to take a break, Michaels then took control over NXT programming and now has even more influence backstage. Considered by many to be the greatest of all time, Shawn Michaels' work in the ring speaks for itself, but now Mr. WrestleMania has formed a new legacy in WWE as an incredibly valuable individual behind the scenes. And we're ending with the all-out backstage fight, which saw plenty of people be suspended, including AEW Executive Vice President Kenny Omega. In addition to being suspended, Omega was stripped of his AEW World Trios Tag Team Championship, but he did something rather heroic during the fight. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful reports that while Omega was technically involved in the fight, the biggest thing he did was to make sure that CM Punk's dog Larry was out of the room. The Kenny Omega involvement was said to be him trying to remove Larry, CM Punk's dog, from the situation to help keep him safe because he was barking and going nuts. Their side of the story says that once he handed Larry off, he tried to get Ace Steel off Nick Jackson, and Ace Steel bit Omega and pulled his hair. While Omega was suspended, there's not been any talk of him or the Elite losing their jobs, which is more than can be said for Punk and Steel. The longest-reigning AEW World Champion, Omega is expected to return after completing his suspension, but we have no confirmation on just how long he and the Young Bucks will be off TV. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.